Welcome to the Soulful Mystics podcast. I'm Steph.
And I'm Julie, and we are intuitive hypnotists, sharing our journey along the way. Hello everyone, this is Julie, and on today's episode, Steph is doing a deep dive into her dream, shamanic healing, and a few other synchronicities tied to the session she shared in episode 53. So if you haven't listened to that one, please go back and do so. Otherwise, this episode may not make a lot of sense to you. Real quick, I just wanted to touch on a few things. I must have had some mic issues during the recording of this conversation, so I do apologize for that. Due to the mic issues, I had to cut some stuff out, but I want to touch on those things here. We talked a lot about those times where we're feeling low energy, low vibe, and when we're in those places, it can sometimes be hard to pull ourselves out and remember the good times. If anyone feels like they are in that space and needs someone to reach out to, please send us an email, soulfulmysticspodcast@gmail.com. Lightworkers need to unite in these times, and we are here to remind you just how bright and magical you really are. Also, because there are so many facets to this dream, shamanic healing, hypnosis session, that if you have any questions or want clarification on something, Steph would love to do a part 2 to this episode. And please join our email list if you haven't already. The link is in the show notes. Steph will be sending an email to our subscribers with even more details about this wild experience. You won't want to miss out. And for anyone who is interested in working with us, remember both Steph and I offer an exclusive discount for our amazing listeners on both soulfulstephanie.com and soulseekerhypnosis.com. Please use coupon code SMP10. If you like what you hear, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast. This really does help us reach more magical souls, and we are forever grateful. All right, enjoy the episode. It is, okay, for me, it is 6:20 a.m.
Yep, we're early risers.
We are. Right, so we have a lot to talk about today.
Yes. Okay. So first I wanted to start out, I pulled some cards about this journey that we are going to talk about. And I pulled it from the Sacred Medicine deck. I sent it to you on Facebook if you wanted to look. The first card is Fire Spark Transform, and the healing affirmation is My sacred rage is needed. I am vital to the healing of this earth. The second one is Soil and Stars for balance. My journey with both the earth and sky matter. I ground myself and feel the fullness of my human experience. And then the third one is Walking in a Good Way, Realign. I return to the truth that source flows through me. I am aligned.
Whoa. Okay. I don't know if you saw like the, was it the second one where you travel the earth and the stars?
Mm-hmm.
My eyes got big. Like, holy shit, this dream.
The dream, and also everything that I have read preparing for this episode. It made me feel, and I know I said this to you, it made me feel like I lost that magic.
Yeah.
Because when I read everything, I didn't even recognize. I was like, who is this magical person? And it wasn't like, even when I would read it like a couple days later, when you channel those things, you tend to forget a lot. You really have to reread it. So if I can encourage anyone to write down your dreams, do some automatic writing or anything, and then reread it, like make it a point to read it in a month or something, because if it wasn't for the podcast, I don't know that I would have reread that card to realign and allow that like magic to come back to you. Like Julie says, it's all in our power, and it's very true.
And I want to say, Steph is always telling me about her like wild, amazing, magical dreams. And for so long, I was like, I don't dream. Like, I go to sleep and nothing happens. She writes down her dreams. So one day I decided I'm going to just start a little notepad in my phone. And then if I wake up and something was going on that I'm aware of, I'm going to quick jot it down. I started doing that. And let me tell you, I dream way more often than I ever thought I did. And also too, just like you said, I go back and reread it and I don't even remember half
Yeah.
of the stuff I've written. And some of it like has very clear messages. It is wild. So yes, I'm here for this dream talk today.
And if you didn't listen to the last episode, Dreamscape and Dimensions Otherworld Mission, I suggest you go back to listen to that. And I will be sending my dream notes as well as other notes from the shamanic healing that I'm going to mention that really go together in the SMP subscription list. So if you're not signed up yet, now is the time to do it because I will be posting all of those notes there so you could read it for yourself.
It is amazing. Please sign up because you will be missing out. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Okay.
I mean, one version of me is a very good writer, and that version is when I channel. It's so different from everyday thinking. It's wild. Yeah, so the session I just had with Julie that we posted in the last episode was a continuation or it was like a little bit before and after this dream. So this dream was really in the middle of that session. Basically, I was about to go to do a shamanic healing and she had asked me to write down all my dreams because there's going to be messages leading up to that shamanic healing session in my dreams. I really made a point to write down every single thing. I had woken up to write this dream down, and as I grabbed my phone to write it down, my partner Max very loudly while he was sleeping said, "Where are you from?" Like really loud. I don't want to be dramatic, but it scared me. It startled me that I dropped my phone and accidentally turned on the flashlight, and it semi woke Max up. And and I was like, "Who were you talking to?" And he said the jetpack people, and while falling back to sleep. He has no recollection of this. I wrote it down as a part of this dream because I felt like we were in the same dream.
Okay, as you were even just explaining that, I got chills.
Yeah. And especially if you listen to the episode in the session, I found out how and why he might have said that. In my dream, I was in this shuttle, this kind of space shuttle, and it seemed like my whole family was there. There was a lot of people that I recognized their energy, but I couldn't see them. They felt familiar. So it was a huge aircraft, and we all had these suits on, but it wasn't like you see in the movies. It was really just kind of like a puffy, I don't know, snowsuit of some kind. I noticed my brother Joe was next to me, and there was a light on the back of everyone's neck. So we didn't have helmets on it at first. There was a light on the back of everyone's neck. Like it wasn't even shining yet. It was just like an amulet, is what I was told in the dream. And Joe and I had the same one, except our designs were just a little bit different. And now from the session, I understand why. Okay, so when we figured out it was an amulet, I then noticed that it started to light up, and there was a man talking to us saying that we were going to Other Earth. So be careful, there's military there. We don't want to hurt them. All our goal was to talk to them, communication. We sat down. He explained how to strap ourselves in. My brother Joe was not there. He was at the bathroom because I never thought that a spaceship or whatever would have a bathroom. But of course, like I don't know how else you're going to go. I don't know how that works. Something to look into. But he missed the part where they explained how to strap ourselves in and how to do the descent. And so I had to explain it to him when he came back. I don't know why that's important, but I felt afterwards that it might be because I meant to teach Joe something. Why was he the only one that I could really see? And he was right next to me. So there was a lock on the seatbelt. I locked it and panicked because I didn't know the code to unlock it. And there was a man explaining all this to us, and he said 0430. And he smiled at me and said, because that's when it happened. I knew what he was talking about as soon as he said it, but as I was writing this down in my journal, like I couldn't remember what I knew it was.
Also chills again, by the way, just saying.
Yeah. And that date turned out to be a very important date that I'll explain shortly. So the spaceship or aircraft was descending our souls. It felt like we were soul beings. And now it makes sense now having that session that we looked human, we felt human, but we were elevated in some way. It felt different than I feel in my body as Steph. And so it felt like our souls descending, elevated souls, and Andromeda kept popping up. So I don't know that correlation too much. I remember Andromeda onto Earth. That had something to do with it. And then we went down in these like individual, I guess, if Max, the way he said it, with jetpack people, because we each had our own devices. We were kind of ejected from the spacecraft and we were coming down onto this platform of some kind. It looked like a school. And I remember the other people that were coming down with us. I remember that how they felt. I remember how their energy felt, but I wasn't meant to help them find their amulet, like find out what the amulet was. And it turns out, like afterwards, that I feel like that's our key. And we will talk about the keys if anyone has heard about that in the spiritual world. So Andromeda had something to do with the dream. I'm not really sure what. So all of the souls on the ship were being activated. We were light beings being activated. And the symbol on the back of our necks were our keys. And so in the spiritual world, a lot of people are talking about these keys, and that represented either how we would find our key or our responsibility, like what that key represented, our responsibility would be. And I couldn't see anyone else's keys except for my brother Joe. I got a message that it's because they had to figure it out on their own. I was not meant to tell them what I saw. So I was not shown it. Okay, so the reason I felt I can remember Joe, they gave me permission in some way because he has lost his way of what he came here to do. He deals with a lot of pain. His body is not something that it makes him feel like he's jailed, like he's a prisoner in his own body. He has rheumatoid arthritis in every single part of his body, including his eyes. And he has spondylitis ankylosing, which is severe inflammation. The last time he ran, he was 16 years old. He was diagnosed when he was 17. To say that he's had it rough in his physical body is an understatement. Honestly, he is such a pure soul. He's so charismatic. And how I saw him in this dream and in this session is exactly how he is to me, how I remember him growing up. And when I see him, I see that he feels things so physically. And so in the session, when I said he is a physical empath, this is really important, like learning for me. I'm an emotional empath. And when I was holding things in my body, it was coming out in other ways, as we all know. And so releasing it to Mother Earth is super important. And this dream definitely taught me that. Like with him, he's not releasing it because he's not looking into that. He might be distracted by all that pain too. And I feel like that's what's being trapped in his body. And this dream really, I try to work with him in hypnosis to release that stuff. But again, we're all on our own journey and we can't force anybody. But I did tell him about this dream. And if that just plants a seed, then it plants a seed. And that's what we're here to do.
I think, and that's what your purpose is too, because with everyone's journey, it's all on their own divine timing as well. So maybe he'll listen to this.
Maybe.
It might be a good reminder if he listens to this.
Yeah, because he can really feel things. Like I remember a long time ago, I have trouble sometimes, like if I'm itchy somewhere, I try to find the spot, but I can't locate it. Or like if I'm trying to explain something to my doctor about like I have a pain somewhere, trying to explain what it feels like is impossible for me. It is really difficult. And I know there's a name for that. Like, I don't know. There is a name for it because some people do deal with that. If I explain in my Steph vocabulary to Joe what it is, he can tell me exactly. And he's never had a piercing before,
Yeah.
but he can tell you exactly how a tongue piercing feels or a nose piercing. And the people who have gotten it done are like, okay, you've gotten it done. That's exactly what it feels like, but I couldn't even imagine what that feels like. So it is interesting how we came here on this earth. And I mean, I don't know, is this like just a different dimension? Is it like what we do in our dream state? Is it the future? Is it the past? Like, I have no idea.
What if it's just another timeline happening now?
Yeah, could be.
I don't know.
I
Anything's
mean,
possible.
yeah, and if anyone has, like, if you listen to the last episode and this episode and you read through the notes and you have a theory, please reach out to us.
Yes, or if you have questions, reach out to us because we could totally do a follow-up, like a part 2 to this, answering any questions you might have. You never know, like this has been an ongoing thing where this dream has like multiple facets to it. And so it may continue. You might get more to it in other dreams or other readings or sessions. So I feel like we'll keep updating if Steph is okay with it.
Yeah, 100%, because that's where the dream ends. Like we were basically descending. When I woke up, my partner Max said, like screamed, "Where are you from?" So as I was descending, I woke up and then he screamed that. And so that's why we felt like, okay, we were in the same dream. doing something together in the dream world or through this other timeline where we were connected in some way. So that's where the dream ended. I never really went into hypnosis looking to find answers or clarity into that dream. I don't know why. Like we could, but I never really thought about it. It just kind of came naturally.
Do you remember what your intention was when we did that session?
So my intention was to experience a life that will help me evolve and grow through my current life chapter.
Well, damn. I mean, you
Yeah.
didn't go into hypnosis saying, I want to experience a life that will tell me what this dream was about.
Yeah, it relates because that dream catapulted my spiritual awakening. The important aspect of the date or the numbers that man gave me, 0430, April 30th. So that's also a 7 when you add it up. And I just ended my year of the 7. But when I sold my house, when my 2 dogs passed, lost my job, moved to this new house, that was all in that time period, the end of April, and that date was the actual date of releasing that home. So it was officially the day that I no longer owned that home. We had already moved into this one. So I think that date was the death of the old me because every single aspect of my life changed and shifted. The dream and the session that I had with Julie is what is making me realize that yeah, I've been really going through some depressive episodes and working through a lot of stuff because everything is changing. Like my DNA is actually changing. That's what he said. That's when it happened. It's true. Like that's the death.
Keep getting like head to toe chills. This is truth tingles. Meredith always says that.
Yeah. And bringing up Meredith, she played a role in this with you.
Yes. I did a session with Meredith. Oh gosh, I don't even remember when it was. This has been a while.
September-ish, because this all happened in October and I was meant to listen to the session because she mentioned me in it, but I waited until after my shamanic journey. So, I mean, almost a year. It's
It's been
crazy.
almost a year. It feels like so long. Yeah. I don't want to say too much about like her part of it, but it was connecting to Steph and it was to me. She had brought up the keys. I think she said either Steph has her key or she's just about to get it. I don't remember a whole lot about like the Andromeda aspect. She kind of talked about it like a mushroom, how it was all connected. Each different like pod was a different university. People who are from these different pods were studying different things and had different purposes. And I feel like that goes along exactly with what you described.
I forgot about that. That's exactly what happened in the session.
It would be interesting to research more. I don't know. In the end, it doesn't matter whether this stuff is like a metaphor for something else or like whatever you want to think of it as, but the connections are so real. Like you can't deny that.
What I wrote down about the keys, and you can find this all over TikTok. I will write down one of the names of the people who I learned from. Meredith sent me this person. I think her handle is Upward Currents on TikTok. And she goes into really big detail on the keys. And I related a lot to what she said. Activators activate the mission and purpose of every other type. They can only activate their own mission themselves. And it's active. Some people say it's activated by meeting the twin flame. I'm not sure about that, but I had a dream right before that space shuttle dream that my brother Joe and I were actually born as twins, and my brother Hudson was his name, passed away. So I don't know if maybe they're saying that he's my twin flame. I don't know. Then there's the translators who are decoders of the universe. Builders who create the structures, environments, and communities that the rest of us key holders need in order to fulfill our purpose. Connectors are the electricians of key holders. So they work within the wall systems, connecting pieces together between different energy points on the grid. So they connect people, different businesses together. They really just build those communities. Gardeners are laying the foundation for energy coming next. So they're planting seeds now for the future. Grid workers are working on a global scale. They're able to reach many different points of the electromagnetic grid of the world. I know I'm not that because I don't understand a damn word. Ground workers are working on ground level, working with the energy and transmuting the energy. So these are the people that can really teach you how to transmute that energy. And they create a butterfly effect when they work individually with people. Custodians are the ones who come in at the very end and clean up all the leftover energy that was missed. mist. So they are the gatekeepers of the cycles. They close out cycles and then they hold guard at the gate so no one else can get back into that energy. Through all this, I mean, we probably have different jobs. We probably weave through all of these types of roles. What I wrote here is roles can switch depending on what's needed. So yes, at this time when I was writing this, I believe that I was an activator because I was able to understand both sides of most situations very easily. The translator, messenger to help others find their key. So holding hands of people walking the bridge into the new reality. So helping to guide them there when they might start to feel like, oh, I'm losing my mind. Like, no, you're not.
That was
Like
me last week, Steph.
yeah,
Losing.
me every other day, really. But that's what's nice to have communities and people
Oh my gosh.
is to
I
help each other recognize that we are magical beings and that these things are a part of life.
yes.
It really feels like, I was like down in the dust. Is that a phrase? Down in the ditch? What's the
Down in the dirt? I don't know.
Yeah, I was feeling like dirt. I was feeling not great. And hearing other people going through similar experiences,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want anyone else to feel the way that I've been feeling, but it helps me understand that it's a collective thing. And by reconnecting with people who might be going through the same things, can really just help us move the energy, move through it. Like
the energies lately have just been so chaotic, but also we're light workers. This is just light workers uniting to kind of help each other through that. Yeah. And I think that's important anyway.
100%. And I like that me and you go through our waves differently because then we're able to light each other up. So it is nice to have people that you can reach out to. So the shamanic healing that I had, to say it was healing is just it's hard to even describe how that was. But I went with my friend Tamara. I had a really strong feeling that this would be an important piece to finding my key. And I journaled about that experience and I channeled through automatic writing. And I will share that with you in an email if you are subscribed to the SMP email list because it is long and I'm not going to read it. But one thing that really stuck out, and it's all about that magic and synchronicities that are just wild to me. So on the drive over there, Tamara pointed out a unicorn teddy in a store that we stopped at that related to you and Meredith for me. That was a symbol for you too. That was just like more proof that we were on the right track. There was also a picture of a canoe on the wall that symbolized my healing journey. And Tamara was that friend that was there with me in the psychedelic healing, and then she was there with me on the shamanic healing. So it just so many synchronicities. And again, bringing that community together is one really important aspect of our spiritual awakening. And I feel like this is what's happening again, right? Like you get to that elevated spot and you feel amazing and you feel magical, and then it's like you feel like you go back a few steps. But like Julie said, if you want to describe your boomerang analogy.
I said it was like a slingshot. But boomerang, I mean, close enough. I love it. Sometimes when everything is in flow and things are going good, and then we feel like we get pulled back into that darkness, it's just pulling us back so that it can move us farther ahead. When we're in that darkness, we're feeling like we're pulled back just so we can be slingshotted forward.
It's like a catapult. It catapults you
Yes.
forward. Yeah, so that was a lot of the signs and synchronicities throughout that experience or that drive over. And the shaman kept telling me how light was shining through me as if I was made of light. Meredith did mention that, I think.
She was describing stuff and then stopped. And then she's like, stuff is so light. In the way she said it, it was just so beautiful. She could just see how light you are, how much light was within you. And for that to come out in the session, I mean, it's just another validation of all of these connections.
Yeah, that was one of the highlights of my year last year was the fact that I even came through. Like, how cool is that?
My God, woman, you have done so much work just the last year. Since I've known you, you get into these slingshot moments where you're like in the dark and I'm like, oh, girl, just wait. Because I know that there's going to be so much more good coming because, you have not gone through all of this work for nothing. Don't ever forget that. Any
Yeah.
of you, don't ever forget that. You don't go through all this work for nothing.
No, and it's always leading to somewhere bigger than you've ever imagined. I am at that point of remembering that that is the pattern, and I am looking forward to see what comes up because I have no idea because I can't imagine it yet. It is something to look forward to whenever you are in those lower phases of your journey here. So with that, on the back of my neck was my amulet or the key was in the shape of an eye. And I will try to draw it for you guys so I can maybe send it in the email as well. And so I felt it represented the third eye. And in the shamanic healing, she said that my third eye and throat chakras were extremely strong and powerful at this time, especially moving forward. And my key is a symbol of elevation of mind and spirit, is what she said, and that I can now open my third eye and throat even more because I'm firmly planted in Mother Earth. And lately, I've been obsessed with grounding, learning different ways that work for me. And also, Julie did tell me about a documentary that I watched called The Earthing Movie, and it really resonated with me. So it's basically reconnecting to Mother Earth physically, like planting your bare feet in the ground. And it's a really great documentary. If any of you want to watch it, I watched it on Prime Video. Yeah, so her saying that I think this lower period is grounding me because I haven't been socializing really at all. I've really just been at home reflecting, planning for the future, and resting. All of this kind of gave me that forced rest, basically. I do appreciate that because I believe it's needed. I don't think that I would do it without that forced aspect because we're just so used to being productive all the time. What did you say? We're human.
We are human beings, not human doings. Because it's so true, like, especially in our society, rest is productive too. That is one thing I had to learn for myself. I finally, after so many years, this year, I feel like I finally am listening to my own advice, giving myself that rest when I need it. Actually learned how important it is, not only for our physical health, but our mental health, our spiritual health.
One thing I did want to say is the shaman saw a guide for me, and she said this guide felt like a hypnosis or meditation master. And keep in mind, this woman has no idea who I am or what I do. At the time, she had no idea. So she said that this is a really important guide, and it's a new guide that came to me 2 years ago, which was exactly when I started studying this. The guide wanted to open my third eye more, and she said that I'm ready. I just need to call on her. So I will have more ability to see true sight. And the shaman said, connecting third eye with cosmic galaxy. And then she was like, wow. The way that it was shown to her was really beautiful and connecting to that galaxy, which I also feel might be related to Andromeda or, I was on a different planet in the session with you as well. So she's a master teacher, a female light being, and she just kept saying, wow, that's so amazing. So much light. It's like a cosmic solar system in a spiral, and there's so much joy from your guides to have you here. Your energetic body is so beautiful and strong, so much light coming from your hands and throat. She did give me tools to release energy going from my hands. I don't know if I've talked about that. I probably did, but I have carpal tunnel. So I get these like shocks and numbness recently with Jennifer. It was Reiki, Usui, Holy Fire. And I am trying to use that practice for myself in order to let that energy flow through my body effortlessly and move through my hands. I have been feeling it a little bit more. And yeah, so I think that it all relates to remembering your magic, remembering your light, even in the lower times, rereading the magic of those higher times, right? Like going through it and remembering it. Because when I read all this, I was like, oh, I can do this. I will get through this and I will get back to that place in my life. And it kind of gave me hope. And now I'm really excited.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say too, because I feel like this message has come to me in different ways. Recently, I've been diving into Sylvia Brown, which I loved her when I was a kid watching Montel, but she always terrified me, but I was fascinated by her. I found like a whole list of her books for free on Audible, so I've been cruising through them. I actually ordered one book too about spirit guides. And in that book, in this message I've heard before, it's come to me in different ways. It's harder to remember moments of joy than it is to remember moments of darkness or sadness or grief. Shouldn't that be the other way around? But it's so true. When we are in these harder times or the darkness or the grief or whatever it is, when we're in that lower vibration, it is so hard for us to remember those moments of pure joy and flow and light. We got to figure out a way to flip-flop that or just remind each other that this is only temporary. This stage of darkness is only temporary, and there's so much more light ahead. Especially right now, the state of the world and all of that, it's like we have to remember these good times. We have to be in that state of joy and gratitude and love. That's how we move through this energy. And that's how we pull ourselves out of that darkness.
Definitely. I know how hard it is sometimes when you're feeling low. And so on those days that asking for guidance and support and help from your guides or friends doesn't feel like it just feels impossible, allow yourself to rest that day and tell yourself, you know what, I'll do it tomorrow, right? And I know I have been isolated quite a bit from most of my community lately, and I've allowed myself to do that. And on the days that it is overwhelming and we cannot convince ourselves that we have that choice, reach out to somebody who lights you up. Surround yourself with people who light you up. And that's it for today's episode. Until next time, stay curious.
Stay mystical.